Due to the mature content of this program, parental discretion is advised.
Brothers and sisters, I don't know what this world is coming to.
Yes, revolution. This is the Thursday Think Tank Prime Time. I am your host, Brother Leonard, the Truth Seeker. Join the discussion. 661-449-9951. It's going to be live, raw, uncut, uncensored. So put the kiddies to bed, because the Think Tank starts right now.
Revolution, everybody. Revolution. This is your host, Brother Leonard, the Truth Seeker, coming to you tonight. Typically, guys come to you in the afternoon, but tonight is the night I welcome you to Thursday night prime time. The Think Tank in the prime time. Like the intro says, tonight I'm looking to be raw. I'm looking to be uncut. I'm looking to just cut loose, let loose, and we're going to do this thing tonight. Oh, I'm rocking it out right now. This is my jam of jams. But anyway, tonight is just going to be a little bit different than what I typically do because it is prime time. Typically, I want to talk about the preachers, but I want to give a different side a little bit about how I want to talk about this preacher tonight. Typically, when we talk about the preachers, we come with a lot of news, we come with a lot of information, and not necessarily a bunch of, like, fluff and stuff. Well, tonight, I can guarantee you want to call in. If you have experienced Brian Carn, you want to call in. Okay, that is 661-449-9951. If you have even heard his stuff on the internet, heard his stuff from somebody else, you got a tape, you got a CD, you got a whatever, call into the show tonight, because this one is good for you, all right? I see the chat room is getting live. I see that the chat room, they ain't got no sound. All right, do we got sound now? Do we got sound? If you got sound in the chat room, let me know. Because I'm thinking I'm on. Because I can hear myself in the Skype. Okay, good. Thank you, Sword. All right. Well, let's get started. Let's get into it. Father, I thank you for tonight. I was going to play the prayer thing, but I can't get that up real quick. But I do thank you tonight for this show, and I know that it's going to be a good show, Lord. But, Lord, just be in the midst of us. Help us to discuss this brother. And, Lord, I pray for Brian Carn that you would ultimately save his soul. In Jesus' name, amen. Now, like I said, tonight is going to be a little bit different. It's going to be a lot of mature topics, okay, because we are going to be talking about sex. We are going to be talking about fornication. And we are going to be talking about homosexuality. We are going to be talking about all these different issues. We may even cuss. Because this nigga right here really gets on my nerves. He's a trifling nigga, and I can't stand him. I can't stand him. From the information I got, he's one of the worst. Because when I see a hypocrite, I can't stand hypocrites. He's a chief hypocrite, calling himself a prophet, profiting off of the people of God. So we gonna touch this dude. we're going to touch him tonight. You know, we're going to touch him tonight. So if you got the kids, you might want to put them to bed. You know, you might want to maybe put on some headphones and listen, because I may, slip a word or two, because I'm known to cuss too. I might slip a word or two in it. But when we talked about this tonight, this dude, Brian Carn, right? This dude calls himself a prophet of God, calls himself an evangelist, calls himself, a man of God. But from recent information and information that has gone on for about 2 or 3 years now, this man is proven to not be a man of God. There are stories all over the net, but in one blog in particular, William McCrae has been following this guy for a long time. Now, all I'm saying is I don't necessarily put a lot of stock into his blog, because I know it's a lot of gossip and stuff. But some of this stuff, when you listen, when you read it, and when you hear it, you got to sit up there and say to yourself, okay, 2 plus 2 is equaling 4 when it comes to Brian Carn. And I got a lot of clips of Brian Carn tonight, and we're going to dig right up in him. We're going to dig right up in this dude, because this nigga needs to be exposed, and this nigga need to go. So first, let's deal with this, all right? William McCrae, on a recent radio show, had on a woman who was Overseer Tanya Davis. Now, Overseer Tanya Davis is a pastor in Houston, all right? But she has a member that she calls her daughter, for whatever reason, calls her daughter. This girl ends up in a relationship with Brian Carn. And I want to play a couple pieces from that first, and then we're going to talk a little bit about it. So here's the first piece. It's about 5 minutes long. I might not go through it all, but we're just going to start off with this piece.
Well, I met him at a church.
Okay.
And I went to a service in Houston, Texas. I can't remember the name of the church. Mm-hmm. But anyway, he was preaching there, and he approached me after the service. Mm-hmm. It was a 2-day service, actually. And so he prophesied to me for the first service. Mm-hmm. And then I came back that evening. After the evening service was over, well, he kind of did some things during the service, actually.
Okay.
So the evening of the second service, we had a prayer, and I know some people are kind of familiar with this, where he'll say, you need to go to the altar and, call out to God, and he'll just have people, laying on their face and praying and everything like that.
Okay.
And I was on the altar. I was at the front, and he was just walking, back and forth on the altar, and I was praying. And one thing he did is he grabbed my hand.
Okay.
And so that was the first, I guess, little indication that maybe he was interested. Okay. I didn't think anything of it. We finished praying and went back to my seat. The service was over. I had a couple of girlfriends over there with me. We were getting ready to leave. I actually had my back turned towards him, getting ready to walk out the church, and he called me out, by my first and last name. And he said, "Hey, I need to talk to you." And so he was, talking to some other people at that time, and I went up to the front, and so he proceeded to talk to me after everybody kind of left, and he was like, I just wanted to shake your hand and just, meet you and talk to you. And he said, well, are you do you follow me on Twitter? I said, no, I don't have a Twitter account. And he said, well, I said, I follow you on Facebook. And so he'd say, he acted all surprised, like, oh, you do? Really?
Mm-hmm.
So I said, yes. So he said, well, I want you to send me a message on Facebook. Mm. So I did. I sent him a message on Facebook. At that time, I didn't know what he wanted at that time. So I sent him a message, and He didn't reply back to that message. So I went on Twitter, and he immediately hit me up on Twitter, and he's like, well, I didn't hear from you, what's going on? And I said, I sent you a message as you said, and he said, well, he said something about it was the wrong account or something like that. So from there, we sent a couple messages back on Twitter, and he asked me for my phone number.
Okay.
So from the phone number, then it proceeded to me going to go see him at his hotel. This is the time when he was still in Houston.
Okay.
He was still preaching at that time, so went to go see him. And he basically kind of just, he was the preacher, which he tried to portray, but then he also, was trying to say that he was interested in me. He wanted to get to know me. He was very attracted to me. He asked me questions, so it seemed like as if we were kind of like building a friendship, but maybe going somewhere else with that as well. That was what I felt like. So from there, we continued to communicate, and after that, he.
So nothing transpired where he made a move, say, in Houston.
Yes.
Okay.
He did.
Okay.
I went to his hotel at the time, and I was with him, and we were just watching TV or whatever. I was just, chilling on the bed, and he was like kind of in a seating chair, and we were talking or whatever. So he comes over to me, and I'm sitting on the edge of the bed, and he says, "Come to me." I said, "Okay." So I'm just like, I'm just standing up there, and he's kind of like holding me.
Mm-hmm.
And then, he like proceeds to kiss me, and then he kind of, from there, he was making moves to have sex with me at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so I looked at him and I said, is this what you want? Is this why you called me up here? And he says, no, that's not, what I want. And I'm interested in you. I want to get to know you.
Mm-hmm.
So from there, the, I guess, petting or, kissing and things like that continued. And he proceeded to have sex with me. But at that time, I told him no at that time. So.
And this is within 2 days of you all meeting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fast.
Quite embarrassing, but.
All right. Now she meets this dude up at the, through the church, through the revival, and I'm looking through on Obnoxious's blog site. He posted up about 27 pages of emails and text messages that these two were interacting. Now, I'm not going to read all of them. I'm just not going to go through it. But she makes it sound that she is so innocent in this situation. I know this is off to the side. But if you read through some of these things, through some of these text messages, she in it to win it too. She in it to win it too. But this story is very similar to other stories. The reason why I wanted to play this was to talk about other stories of how this man, in the name of Jesus, will go ahead and preach against sin. I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. We'll go preach against sin, do all this prophecy to folk, but at the same time, he's scamming and looking for babes. He's sitting up there scoping the room, trying to find the women. He's trying to find a nice young thing to mess with. Other stories of young women across this country, goes into revivals, read one story this week of a woman who he messed with during the week of a revival, stole her credit cards, booked flights to the next one, booked flights to the next preaching engagement off of the woman's credit cards. This dude needs to be stopped. This dude needs to be stopped. If you want to call in, the area code is 661-449-9951. This is the Churchfolk Revolution Radio Thursday Think Tank. We're talking about Brian Carn. We're talking about him because he's a profiting prophet. Not only is he profiting in the money, but he's also profiting in the punani. You know, he going after it. He really going after it full-heartedly, okay? So this dude is, you know, the embodiment of what the new generation of pimp preacher looks like, all right? So let me set this up for you a little bit. I'm going to go a little bit back a little bit. In the 90s, right, we started finding out about, you know, within the church, there's some changes with titles. You know, all of a sudden everybody wanted to be bishop. Everybody's running chasing to be bishop and being, you know, an apostle. But another title change happened too. You know, when people who were evangelists would go out and evangelize in different churches and, you know, stuff, would try to go save souls or whatnot, that was cool, but it really wasn't that profitable. So people began to take on these titles and these monikers of prophet, like Brian Carn. Take on these monikers of prophet. Now you can sit up there and basically tell people their fortune, because that's what I think it is. It's fortune telling to me. I do believe that there are some real prophets, but at the same time, when you got prophets like this, he's nothing more than a fortune teller. Because just what happens with a fortune teller? And you know, a fortune teller, you go, you pay them you pay them something, you give them something, you give them some money, and then they will tell your fortune for you. After you tell them, you know, after, you know, you pay them, you give them prophets like Brian Carn, E. Bernard Jordan, Benny Hinn, all these other prophets that say that they're prophets will sit up there, will tell you your fortune, right? Will tell you your fortune after you give them some money, okay? And he actually admits that, and I got a clip of that, okay? So there's no difference in this guy. There's no difference from that, you know, fortune teller, right? So now, getting back to the story. Now, Ashley, this young woman, Ashley, comes forward. She tells her pastor about this relationship. The pastor then goes to confront Brian Carn. Brian Carn, you know, rejects the relationship, but there's too much of a paper trail for this relationship to happen. And ultimately, the reason why Ashley confronts her pastor to tell her is because Mr. Carn gives her a little gift. Okay? Trichomosis. All right? You know, and fellas, we may be a carrier, we don't even know it. But for a woman, it can cause some, you know, some issues. I wouldn't say that they're mild issues, but, you know, discharge, odor, inflammation, irritation, you know, stuff like that, you know, within that sexually transmitted disease. So he gives her this, and I got a clip of that, and we're going to go ahead and check this out real quick.
So you went to Atlanta, you met with him in Atlanta, and how did you know? Because, and I know this is a difficult question for you to answer, but my folks are going to want to know. How did you know that definitely got the STD from Brian Carn?
Well, first of all, I had not had sex with anybody else, and that was one of the things that I shared with him for 2 years that I had not had, and that's when I met Mom, and I had just, basically decided to live the way I was supposed to and be committed to that. And so, for one, I started noticing changes in my body, and I knew that there was no other way.
Right.
I didn't know what it was at the time, but after telling Mom, what happened.
You knew. So she knew about. It wasn't you knew about the relationship before you knew about the STD.
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
okay.
And I told her that, I had noticed some changes in my body and I needed to go to the doctor. And she said, well, baby, yes, you need to go as soon as possible. So I booked an appointment to the doctor, and that's, what my diagnosis was. So I didn't know at the time what was happening, but I just knew that the things that were happening to my body was not normal, and I had never had that happen before.
Right.
So.
And what was happening? Was you had a discharge?
Yes, I had discharge coming from my body. Yes.
Yeah. And trichomonas also has a stench that goes along with it.
All right, so this man ends up giving her this STD. Now, thankfully, it wasn't an STD that was more serious, because that can be that can be a reality too. As much as this man gets around, that can really be a reality. Now, this man, he gets around so much, right, that according to McCrae, okay, because this is according to him, this is part of the rumor thing, so I'll let you know that. According to McCrae, Bishop J. Delano Ellis, the same J. Delano Ellis that is making bishops left and right with the African American Bishop Society, whatever, college or school of bishops or whatever he calls that thing. But he making bishops all the time, the bishop makers. J. Delano Ellis said across his pulpit, according to McCrae, that Brian Carn is not welcome to this church unless it's for his funeral. Now, why would he say something like that? Maybe this man was doing a revival and stepped to Ellis's daughter and, some freaky-dicky stuff possibly happened. It's not confirmed, but for him to be that upset, something went down with him. It even got to the point where last week we talked about, on the ThinkTank, we talked about Larry Trotter. Bishop Larry Trotter won't have him at his church anymore. Not only because he prays after the women, but he also ran down one of his associates about his honorarium and about how much more of an honorarium he wanted. See, this dude's a trip. And yet people are still believing that this is a man of God. This type of pimpery we need to actually expose because, yes, he has some notoriety. Yes, he has some fame. Yes, people around the country know who he is, but at the same time, people are not getting this side. So the more that we put out there about Brian, the more we can sit up there to let people know that this is not a true prophet of God. This is not a true man of God. Truth be told, I don't even think he's saved. But that's just me. I'm not trying to, I know I can't put him into heaven or hell. I know he might have, he probably believed at one time, but he talks about and I forgot to post this video up, but it's in the videos. It's in the videos. If you looked at one of the videos where he talked about Eddie Long, and I'm gonna bring that up in a little bit. But in one of the videos where he talks about Eddie Long, he talks about how Saul was anointed by God for 2 years, but he served 40 years. So for the other 38 years, he was without the presence of God. And I'm sitting up here listening to him talk about how the relationship between Saul and God, how it deteriorated, and how God said that God said that I'm the only boss that will fire you, but allow you to keep working. He was saying that as it relates to Eddie Long. Now, he's saying that about Eddie Long, basically saying that Eddie Long done left, which I believe, but, the Spirit of God left him, but he's still functioning and all this stuff. And I'm sitting there like, okay, that's true. But, dude, what about you? I'm saying, what about you? It seems to me your words of what you're speaking. To me, if I was to say that you were to be a prophet, that's where I would find the truth. I find the truth in the fact that you said about Eddie Long is the same stuff that is coming back to you. See, I have a problem with hypocrites. I have a problem with people being hypocritical. If you're going to be for something, be for it. But don't sit up there yelling and harping about sin or somebody else's sin when your sin is right there. Now, granted, we all have sin. We all fall short of the glory of God. We all have our issues. We all have our problems, yes. We all are working on our problems. We all are, we all have our things. But this is a little bit different because when you are out here preaching to try to reach the lost, and yet you're sitting up there scheming to find some, something for after service, for that after service nightcap, and you're trying to find that nice piece for, for the hotel room after you done preached out of that service, you're trying to take something home, take something back for the hotel with you for the after party. I got a problem with that. That's not God. There's nothing about that says God. And Brian is doing that all over the country. All right, we got some callers. My main man, is this you, Sage? You're live on the Churchfolk Revolution Thursday Think Tank.
Yeah,
prime time.
It's definitely me. Prime time. Lord have mercy. So,
how's it going, sir? Go ahead. Go ahead, sir.
I'm sitting here eating sushi and doing homework and listening to the show, and you hit on something by saying that when you said that we all sin, we all not perfect. I heard somebody put it so eloquently on a different show. The gentleman turned around and said, "This isn't a matter of being perfect because we all fall short. What this is a matter of is holding up a standard, And if you're here trying to hold up a standard, doing one thing and doing another, as we can all agree, there's a problem with that. I mean, this dude over here, getting him an extra piece of the offering. I mean, that's so much. Getting him an extra piece of offering.
I mean, it's the truth. It's the truth.
Go ahead, boss.
So I was just saying, it's the truth because from church to church that he goes to, that woman, overseer Tanya Davis, blasted him out on Twitter, right? She blasted him out on Twitter, and when she did that, guess what? About 6 other folks came back at her on Twitter saying that he's doing the same thing to them. He has he's basically living ludicrous right now.
I'm gonna take what Marcella said, and I'm gonna apply it to this. Ladies and gentlemen, Hollywood has had a baby, and that baby is the so-called black church that we see today.
I'm saying, this dude right here, he's basically ludicrous. He got holes in different area codes. I'm serious. So, I mean, how can we honestly say that he is truly a man of God? And how can people honestly defend that?
I believe in calling a spade a spade. Matter of fact, my parents always taught me growing up, it is what it is. If it walks like a duck, sounds like a duck, didn't need the corrective surgery to be a duck, then it must be a duck. So, I mean, and not only that, this is what actually saddens me. Now, some of y'all may know my background. I've been to different places around the world. And, people are looking at us. People are looking at the church, I should say. And for a lot of folks in different countries who are desiring to find Christ, this is the stuff that they see.
Yes, it is. Because this is the stuff that's on TV. Yeah. This is what we give them. We give them this. I like twin. I like what you said. This Curious George looking like dude sitting up there hollering and fussing at folk and prophesying to folk. In the second hour, we're gonna deal with a couple of his prophecies, and I'm gonna deal with the Lexi show that he did too, because it was kind of interesting. But Sage, hang on for a second, because I want to let somebody jump in. All right, area code 111. You're live on prime time. Say your piece, sir.
I was just, I didn't even push any buttons. It just automatically came on. This is Brother Joseph from Houston.
Hey, Brother Joseph from Houston. All right.
I really don't have anything to say. I'm just listening to what you all are saying, even though this happened in my own city.
Okay, yeah.
So I was kept on calling back, and it just automatically put me into the host queue. So I don't know. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, no problem. If you want to just hold on, I'll put you back on hold, and
okay.
I'll keep you. Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay.
All
thank
right. Area code 832. You are live on Thursday Think Tank Prime Time on the CFR. State your piece.
Hey guys, this is Terry, and of course I'm from Houston. Hey guys, here's the deal. Now, I didn't catch all of it, so I'm coming out bits and pieces, but I will say this, is that you have so much of that going on in church. And it's just like God calls. But he says, many are called and few are chosen just for this reason. Because this man is using his gift. Now, does he have the gift? Yes, God doesn't take your gift away from you. Okay? Your gift is always there, but it's your choice on how to use this gift. Okay? So he decides to use his gift to manipulate these women.
Go.
Oh,
go ahead.
Okay, so he's using his gift to manipulate these women. But I also have to say, he's held to a higher standard than just the people that are in the congregation, because he called himself a pastor, okay? But even the women that are cheating and doing all this stuff with him as well, the blame there's enough blame to go around for everyone. But I will say, as to him, as God holds him to a higher standard, because he is so-called a pastor and overseeing and covering and the little sheep and all this other silliness that they got going on, then his heart is not there, because he's more concerned about the lustfulness than really doing what God has called him to do. And that's what I want to add.
Amen, Sister Terry. Now, real quick, I'm just going to read this one line from one of the text messages, okay? That the woman sent to Brian, all right? Because she sounds so innocent in all this. You said this, Terry, that she was innocent, but I'm going to just throw this out there. Because she done got into this man so hook, line, and sinker that now dude got her doing this stuff. Let's start with this little conversation. Tell me what you got for me. That's Brian to Ashley. If I tell you everything that I'm going to do to you, there won't be a surprise. I'm going to blow your mind. Tell me some now, please.
Yeah,
I'll start by kissing every inch of your body. And my big friend over there, okay, I'll suck and lick him too. You gonna make me touch myself over here. No, baby, don't do that. Leave all the touching, kissing, and licking to me. Keep going. I'm listening. Now, Brian's sitting up there see, I can't go any further. Y'all, we're going to start talking about how I want it in my pussy and stuff. I can't do that. So she's just as comparable as this dude. Let me throw this person on the line. 501. You are live on prime time. 501 area code.
What's up, Brother Leonard?
Hey, what's up?
Hey, man, it's William Avery. What's going on, sir?
Brother William.
Not much. Go ahead, state your piece, sir.
I just wanted to make a comment on what Terry said, and I think a lot of times we confuse gifts and callings.
Yes.
Do you remember, and I heard one of my friends, me and Brother Patrick Jackson was talking about this earlier, but do you remember when Moses went before Pharaoh and he threw his rod down and it turned to a snake?
Yeah.
All right, and then those magicians did the exact same thing, right?
Yes, they did.
And they did the exact same thing and duplicated. Moses was from God, but the magicians were using sorcery. So a lot of times we think what we're seeing in the house of God is from God because it's in what they are called in the house of God. We have got to be real careful that we really have the spirit of discernment because that dude is so slick that they can take the exact same thing and make it appear. I believe he's got a devil in him. I don't think he's working from the Spirit of God because you can become so perverted. Let me tell you this real quick. I preach, brother. I preach for you. Yes, sir. I preach for years.
Go ahead.
And did the same thing, brother. I'm talking about for years. I did the same thing, doing it over and over, and there comes a point where God does try to woo you back to him. But you forget all of that stuff because you're so consumed in that demonic stuff that you're in that you are perverted so much that you think it's God, but you don't even realize that the enemy has come in and taken over you. And sometimes you can be operating in the full power of the enemy and think you God.
Hey, mind if I ask something?
Man, that dude got a demon.
Yes. Go ahead, Sage. Real quick, Sage.
Yeah,
I'm gonna add on to Avery real quick. Go ahead.
Real quick, I'm just gonna put it to you like this, and you're more than welcome to correct me if I'm wrong. But I was always taught that, look, first of all, we all have a choice.
Right.
We all do. Mm-hmm. Now he could be operating in that. He could be operating in that spirit, but you have that choice to go. But you have that choice to make the right decision now.
Right.
I mean, they knew exactly what they was doing. They knew exactly what they was doing. And the text messages, and I haven't seen it, but based on what I heard, the text messages right there proved it. Now they made the choice to go ahead and dive themselves into that. Again, correct me if I'm wrong, but the enemy has a way of presenting the situation to you. It's up to us how we deal with it. So there is no innocence here.
Yeah, now here's the thing. Now, Brother Avery, when you came off with that whole gift, and Sister Terry coming off about the gift, Brian is so smooth, right? Mm-hmm. He is so smooth in how he deceives his listeners.
Yes.
I gotta pull up this one clip where he's so smooth and deceiving his listeners that everything that he says, he's talking about himself, but he's projecting onto other people who are false prophets,
right?
Who he says is false prophets. So it's like, I'm going to tell you what to look for in a false prophet so that I can reflect back so that you can think back, I'm the true prophet, but in the same thing, you're the false prophet. These are the false prophets, not me, but the rest of them. So when you're looking at, like, when he talks about, you know, people being gifted, right? And people being, you know, people being fortune tellers and people being psychics and going through, and how pastors are, you know, basically walking and seeking after familiar spirits. I don't know what anybody's saying, but if dude is prophesying on one end, right, and then scoping the room, finding his after-church peace on the other end, to me that sounds like a familiar spirit. I'm just saying. So it's interesting how when we deal with people who, you know, deal with this man talking about he's a true man of God or a true prophet, right? It's interesting how when he talks about, say, for instance, Bishop Eddie Long, and I'm going to play that clip first because it's right here, right? Because it's right up right now. He talks about, he basically leaves it in code that he's talking about Eddie Long, but he's saying all this stuff about Eddie Long and, you know, about him being a sissy, being gay and everything like that. And I'm sitting up here like, okay, now you so hard up on the sin, but when this pastor came at you on Twitter and asked to meet with you to discuss this issue that you done gave to this young woman, you ain't got nothing to do with it. But you quick to be on anybody else's sin. But you ain't quick to deal with your own. So real quick, check this out real quick. I'm not going to play the whole thing. Go ahead. We're going to, not the whole thing, but just some of it. Come on. Click. There it is.
One of your major preachers in Atlanta who, if I called his name, everybody would know him.
Yeah, we know Eddie Long.
Invited me to come to his church, and he said this to me, Bishop. He said I couldn't believe it.
This conversation didn't happen, Dr. King.
He said to me,
lying.
I'm going to invite you to come. I'm going to bless you real good. I said, you are? Yeah.
Here comes
they
the lie.
say he do bless you real good.
Here comes the lie.
Said to me, you can preach.
Here it is.
But don't bother my sissies.
Here's the lie right there.
I say, well, you don't want me to come preach at your church. Because the first one I'm going to hit is you. Oh, you're quiet in here. Hey!
Hello. Come on.
Oh, let's go tonight. Sit down, y'all. I'm coming after you first. Because the only reason you got a church full of them, it got to be somewhere in the head. It goes from the head on down.
Yeah, that's where you want to get down.
Sit down, y'all.
Come on now. He's right.
Ooh, yes, sir.
All right, I'm done.
Sit down.
I got to switch this off. I can't.
Huh?
Come on, click off.
Told me don't bother him.
Come on. All right, I can't do it no more.
Very, very sick.
But
that's very sick.
I'm saying, how? For the life of me. I mean, for the life of me, I know that Eddie got his issues, and we deal with Eddie Long harshly on this show. But when you're talking to, I know that they talk about people all the time in church. I know that they do, but something in me doesn't fit right that Eddie Long would sit up there and say, you can come preach at my church, but just don't talk about my sissy. that doesn't sound right to me. I mean, it doesn't sound right to me. For what, it doesn't sound, it doesn't pass the smell test to me. Because if he's going to sit up there and bring you in, he already knows that you do what you do.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, it just doesn't sound right. To me, it sounds like Eddie invited him, and maybe in the course of a conversation, he might have said, well, I'm going to talk about your gay folk. And he's like, well, I'm going to talk about your sissies. He's like, no, maybe we won't have you over. That's maybe how the conversation actually went, but he spun it around to make it seem like, oh, don't you talk about my sissy. No, come on now.
Trying to glorify himself and put other folks down.
He's trying to glorify himself. That don't sound right. But he's trying to make himself look better that he can preach against sin.
Hey, someone on the chat said it best. Eddie still hasn't even came clean, so why would he even say that blatantly? It's like you said before. This dude is just trying to make himself look good. Particularly like speculating, but a spade is a spade. This is just ridiculous.
I mean, this dude right here is a trip, and the thing about it, and when you listen to him, he preaches hard on gays, and he was going to call people bull daggers, and for me, I can't deal with that. I love people of all types. I have my own opinion about gays and gay rights. This is not the show for that, but I couldn't go any further because I'm already hot, and I don't need talking about calling people out their names for no reason.
That's another thing I don't understand, and I'm sorry to cut you off. This is definitely your cue, but let me just grab a rib real quick. When it comes to matters with Christ, this is supposed to be about love. I mean, there's just so much stuff that's just ludicrous here. And you know what? The problem is PMS. And for those who don't know what PMS is, that's basically power, money, and sex. That's what the problem is. And with this supposed to being about love, we got folks calling folks out of folks' names. We got a Hollywood sexual scandal all in the church. The junk is just ridiculous. And my question is, when would all their so-called followers finally get in their heads enough?
Right.
Enough.
Oh, Jesus. How many sheep do he have? How many people in his congregation?
Oh, we're talking about Brian. You're talking about Brian Carn's congregation? He has no congregation. Remember back in the days you had those traveling evangelists?
Really?
He's one of
traveling sheep?
He's one of them, but he calls himself a prophet and evangelist. He preaches and then he prophesies. But he goes from church to church, and like the old, like how the evangelists used to do the traveling circuit. Well, this is what he does. He has a pastor, right? And the overseer for that Ashley girl went to him and went to his pastor in Jacksonville and tried to set up a meeting to deal with this issue, and they both refused. So we already know how his accountability is, that other pastor, because that other pastor is sitting up there looking at, Brian as the cash cow. Because when Brian goes to these places, when he talks, in the second hour, I'm going to play a lot of this Lexi stuff. Because when he goes to churches, he sits up there and he'll tell you that, and one of the clips I listened to earlier, and I'm not going to play it for the show, he talked about how, I know how much money you got in your bank account, and I know how much money you are sitting on God. And unless you sit up there and release that, you're not going to get that. And he's talking about, all this stuff. He talks about how he calls people by their names and by their addresses. And Tanya, the overseer, says,
what if I move? I might have moved last week.
But here's the thing. She was like, the only reason why you know their names and addresses is because when you come up with your check, he tells you,
to talk stuff.
Wow. Yes, he prophesies and tells people where they live. And people, people fall for it because he sit up there taking the check and reading the check and reading the addresses and the names off the check. That's how he got checked. Because he called her by the full name.
This dude is worse than Miss Cleo and some. No.
Oh my God.
I know. This is crazy. It's crazy.
It's just so blatant though, but people refuse to see it. Oh.
You know why they refuse to see it? I think the reason why people are refusing to see what the truth is because they want to believe in a quick rich theme in a sense. A lot of times these people they're very gifted. I'm gonna keep saying that because their mouthpiece is very gifted. And when I say that they can manipulate you into giving everything you own. Remember the one that took out all these people with him, Jim Jones. He took out 900 folk with him, okay? 900 folk with him. He had them all to kill themselves, but he didn't kill himself like that. You know what I'm saying? He didn't take no cyanide. He had somebody shoot him. You know what I'm saying? But what I'm saying is you have people out there that can manipulate people, and when you don't know what the truth is, you go and put your truth in some of these people that is going to promise you that you're going to get a new house, a new car. Because just tell a couple of folks that is just going through something, that's finances is shot, and you tell them that God is going to give them a new car, a new house. You got their full attention. Full attention. You're going to listen to everything. Why? Because they're going through, and instead of reading the word and having that relationship with God, they rather have somebody that comes to act like they know what they're saying. That sermon was for me. No, it wasn't for you.
Sister Terry, are you listening with your computer speakers on?
No, that's not me.
Okay.
Hold on a second, because I hear an echo too, but I'm on the way. Hold on. I'm going to call you from my office phone.
All right, no problem.
All right. I don't hear an echo.
Oh, now the echo's gone. Well, it's there a little bit because it's me, but I got my stuff. I don't have the show on. I'll delete that anyways, my computer, see what happens. Maybe it's like to just be blog talk. It is what it is. Skype, one of them, But anyway.
I'll try to find my headphones.
Yeah, but anyway, when Brian, if preachers, the preachers that you go to are starting to, starting to, discipline you. It's something. How about this? If you look on the YouTube page, on my blog site, I forgot to promote it yet. www.ldrtruthseeker.com. If you pull up the show for tonight, all the links are there that I'm talking about. Look at the brother whose YouTube name is Eddie Long Exposed. And I like this brother. Because when Brian Carn was out at a church in Colorado, he decided to bum rush the church and to call him out. Watch it. 11 minutes of pure gold. Love every second of it. Because now you can't see him going into church, but you can hear him. He did a little audio thing with it. But he goes up into a church and calls him out. So make sure you check that out. And we're going to get started into some of these Lexi videos in a second. Because a lot of what we're talking about, he's already said it. Okay? He already said, how men of God, and preachers have the gift, but they don't have the anointing. He talks, in a lot of what he does, he talks in double talk, like in one of the clips, he'll talk about how you should believe the prophet, which is a spoken word, but you have to believe the written word. He just gave himself an out. So when the spoken word is wrong, the written word ain't wrong. So even if I say what I say and it don't come to pass, it ain't my fault. You didn't believe the prophet. Ain't that something?
Passing the buck.
All right, well, real quick, before I get into, because when I come back, I'm going to come back to this. I'm going to find me a quick little break song, and for about a few minutes, I'm going to go ahead and deal with this dude. You know, I'm going to deal with this dude a little later, but right now I got to get I've been talked myself into needing something to drink. So I'm going to go ahead and do that.
I'm going to find myself.
I'm going to find myself a little break song real quick. Oh, okay. I'll do a little Lecrae. We'll see what's going on with that. Yeah. All right, we'll be back in about 4 or 5 minutes here on the Thursday Think Tank Prime Time.
Talk to you in a minute.
Look Cannon. Cannon.
Focus tenfold less money than they can borrow. Create annual sorrow for families left feeling hollow. Then a son of a gun victim fleshing out his anger. Coloring cartoons of strangers who getting strangled. And a daughter let a stranger. The school called him a counselor. Do some dirty things, but he promised that he would counsel her. Baby mama can't identify the man that killed him. It's the same low down dealer that she always get appeals from. And her son is getting older. Streets is making him colder. But his mama's out cold cause she ain't never quite sober. His sister 15, but you probably think that she grown up, cause she be with some men acting way too grown up, and don't nobody care though. The schools ain't teaching, McDonald's selling poison, got people working for cheaping. The military drugs, the prison only way to eat, man. It's cold in these streets, that the track bring the heat in. Cold like no clothes and snow blown. Like when the devil takes the breath out of a baby's nose. And the people won't hear more metaphors and wordplay. My sister's sick of stripping, she need hope up in my words, man. She pull up to the mall when she valet her little Mercedes, wishing she had some romance, healthy family, couple babies. And a gentleman she loved, he already got a wife, so she's accepting her plight. She's the lady of the night, and she saw him in the park with his daughter. They holding hands, arm around his woman's shoulder. He ain't give her not a glance. She accepts her sad reality. She doesn't stand a chance. One woman gets the man, the other woman gets the dance. It's a cold world, real cold world. Jermaine called that thing, man, where is we gon' turn? A lot of people thinking I'm on a hopeless endeavor. Nah, I know someone who could change the weather forever, ever.
There is only one mediator between you and God, and it is not your pastor. You are listening to Churchfolk Revolution Radio.
All right, we're back. Hopefully, I guess Blog Talk is a little bit better. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, I can hear you. It's much better. It's much better now.
So it must have been me because I take my speakers off and got my headphones.
Oh, well, thank you.
Go ahead,
All
that's
right,
my say.
well, we appreciate that, Sage. Well, tonight we're talking about the man that he calls himself, Brian Carn. Brian Carn, he calls himself a prophet, calls himself a man of God, but to me, he's despicable. And right now, about 2 or 3 years ago, Lexi, she does a show. Now, just off of a side note, I watched the show, and before before I would watch it, I didn't watch the show, but she not only is she not that bad to look at, but for an interviewer, she's not that bad. She's actually pretty good, as an interviewer, and she's more or less tried to do her little Oprah thing, but other than that, she's all right. But Brian is on the show, and she calls the show, and I have all the links on my blog page, which is www.ldrtruthseeker.com. That's where I put everything up for the show, so you can follow along with the show. So if you go ahead on the separate, on a separate window, don't leave the show. Go on a separate window, and www.ldrtruthseeker.com. You'll see all the stuff there. You can go ahead, interact, comment, and everything like that there too. She had him on and called it an interaction or a night with the prophet. And she called him the most accurate prophet of our time. That just amazes me. I mean, it's just, to me, he just got the best game. But people see that as he's very accurate. She starts off the program showing a clip of him, I guess, in that same service. They were having service or whatever, preaching or prophesying to a woman who had a lump in her breast. Now, to me, it looked like he wants to, seem like he really wants to not grope the woman, but he really wants to grope the woman. But that's neither here nor there. But it starts off with a thing of, oh, does she have a lump? I need a nurse here. I need a nurse here right now. Please send a nurse. Is there nurses? 2 nurses. Oh, Lord. Yeah, come on, bring them down. Because I want to find this lump. I was searching for this lump on my own.
All right.
I want to do the breast examination. So he starts off with that, and that was the clip. To me, that was funny, because I'm looking at his eyes, looking at his face. So now when the nurse, you got to look at the video. So now when the nurse is, you can't see the nurse doing the exam, but you can see Brian's eyes doing the exam himself. Even the altar worker guy, right? The altar worker guy had enough decency during that portion to turn his back. And he's facing the crowd now. Okay? He's not looking at he had the decency to do that. Not your boy. Not your boy. But you can look at that. That's on the Lexi show. But I want to start off with something in particular, what we were talking about. And I hope I got this on the clip. I'm not sure because I wanted to get these clips real quick so that we can really have some discussion on them, on this character through this show. And then I'm going to play a clip where he's talking about the essence of prophecy, right? His essence, basically prophecy, and then on his giving, on people giving to him. Okay, I'm gonna play a little clip about that, and then I want to play a clip of him actually giving a prophecy just out of the blue to Lexi. Okay? Now, he's going to give this prophecy to Lexi, and we're going to sit up here and basically scrutinize his gift. Okay? All right, so this one here has to do, it's a 2-minute clip, it has to do with his philosophy on the office, so-called office of prophecy.
That is in us. Why do you think? It is a known fact. I'm getting excited.
I see that.
It's known fact right now. This was on the news that CEOs are going to psychics because of the downfalls of their business.
Absolutely.
And you know what's happening? The reason they have to go to the psychic is because the prophet is not in the church.
I agree.
That's the only reason. They're doing the same thing that Saul did. Went to the winch of Endor to hear a word. But God wasn't even talking. God wasn't saying nothing. But he went to seek a familiar spirit.
That's true.
And a lot of our ministers who are prophesying today are operating in familiar spirit. The prophet is not for the world. He gave some apostles, prophets, evangelists, pastors, teachers for the perfecting of the saints. It's not for the world. I'm not a prophet to go tell a sinner something to make them feel good. What good is your house if you're shacking in the one you got now? What good is a car if you're not living right with the one you have now? The purpose of the prophet is to perfect the saints and bring you not to depend on me, not to make you a lazy Christian, but to bring you back to the word. Why? That we be no longer tossed to and fro by every wind of doctrine.
Have people tried to leech on to you and become Christians, and because you gave them a word and the word came to pass, did they try to come back to you and ask you a whole bunch of other questions?
Like, and I try with everything in me not to allow people to do that. I try to only confirm because folk gonna do what they want to do.
Right.
And one thing I learned, if somebody's marriage don't work and you said it, they're gonna blame you. They ain't gonna blame God.
Right. That's true.
They're gonna blame you. And a lot of people listen to prophets and have gotten married and married the most miserable person in their life because they listen to a prophet instead of hearing God. The prophet does not come to replace your spiritual devotion with God.
That's good.
You only come to confirm what God is saying.
All right. Now, there's so many problems with what you just heard, okay, and the people are clapping through. All right. Now, first of all, he tried to set up the whole thing of people seeking prophets and prophecy, right? And he tried to set it up about people with the psychics and everything like that. But if you notice, he's talking about the familiar spirit and everything. And if you notice, like I said earlier in the first hour, how he's saying everything that he is, but he's saying, I'm not that. You see what I'm saying? He's saying everything that he is, but he's telling the people, I'm not that. Now, like the whole thing at the end with the whole people marrying because of the prophet, marrying the worst people that they ever had in their life because they heard the prophet. Well, if you said you want us to believe the prophet, because he's big on that. If you see it, I know I don't have the clip on that just yet, but he says you have to believe the prophet. In one of the clips, he told a woman in the prophecy, said if God doesn't do something for you by August, you can stop sowing seeds to God. Okay? He's saying stuff like you have to believe the prophet, but you don't want to get blamed when your prophecy, is messed up.
I want you to believe me, but at the same time, I don't want you to hold me accountable in case something doesn't go right.
Exactly. He goes on to talk about how, hold on for a second.
All right.
Had an alarm going off. He goes on to talk about how when he was younger, right? I should have pulled this clip too. When he was younger, and how he said he had to practice his gift, which is okay, I understand. He talked about how he used to practice on his mama, and he used to practice on some other folk that he knew that little small stuff until he perfected it because he wasn't wrong. What he was saying was that when I'm wrong, God gave me an out. It's called the written word. Okay? Not, you have to depend on not only the written word, but you have to depend on the spoken word. He talked about the story about how the prophet went to went to Ezekiel and told Hezekiah. It was Ezekiel going to Hezekiah. Told Hezekiah that you're going to die tonight. Get your affairs in order. You're going to die tonight. And Hezekiah turns his face to the wall, right?
Yeah.
Turns his face to the wall and says, Lord, and begins to pray.
Yeah.
And then the prophet turns around in the court and goes back and says, God said that he's going to give you 15 years. So it basically is saying, well, the spoken word, it could change. The spoken word could change. But it's the written word that's that's always the same. Yeah, we know this. However, how are you going to sit up there and be a prophet and sit up there and say to some woman that there's your husband? They go and marry this man, and this man goes ahead and starts whipping on him. And then, yes, they're going to blame you.
Oh, she started beating him?
Because they're getting beat up, and they're going to blame you because you said, for me to believe you as a prophet and man of God, but yet now you don't want, like you said, the accountability for my life being messed up. Why is that, Mr. Carn? After this woman, that you would prophesy to about this husband, gave you a nice little seed offering to hear that word. Because that's the ultimate goal. People, know this. What Brian does has nothing to do with you getting your blessing or whatever it is from God.
Say that
what Brian does, that's it. Like you said, the PMS, that's what
Power,
he's after.
Money, sex.
That's what he's after. Every prophecy has to deal with the money. Everyone has to deal with the money. He talks about how, and I'm going to play that one now. He talks about how when you give, you have to come expecting with a seed. You have to give this seed in order to hear the word from God. Now, I remember, my wife telling me a story earlier today. We were talking about the show. She told me about how in her old church, when she was a kid, the usher board would, every so often, when they get together for their little parties, they would have the beer and stuff in the basement. Everybody else would be fellowshipping on the first floor, on the main floor. But upstairs in a secret little bedroom, they'd have a psychic. And people would go, mingling through and go up to the secret bedroom to get their to get their fortune told, right? And they did this quite often, from what my wife said. Now here's the thing about it. Now they were a little Baptist church. They weren't trying to, these folks, they weren't trying to live holy. All right, they was trying to just go do what they do. All right, but here's the thing that gets me. That fortune teller, told them whatever they wanted to hear. Probably had the gift, just like how we saw with Moses and the magician, just how we saw with Simon, trying to buy the anointing,
Right.
They were offered money for that psychic to come and read their fortune. You go to the amusement park, and they had a little psychic booth, with a little glass person. You got to give them money. You go to a little psychic shop, down there on your whatever your street is. Our street in the city of Pittsburgh is Carson Street. They got a little psychic shop down there. You know what street I'm talking. You know the types of streets I'm talking about, where they have all the bars and the nightlife. You know, they got their little psychic.
I know.
They got the psychic spot down there. You go in there, you give the woman whatever it is that she asked for, and then she gives you your fortune. To me, what is the difference? You go to church to see the prophet Brian Carn, or any, we could put Brian Carn, we could put E. Bernard Jordan, we could put his son Manasseh, so whatever, Jordan. You could put whatever, prophet you want to put out there. You go there, they'll sit up there and say, I need X number of people to give me X amount of dollars. Y'all all run with your checks and stuff and money in your hands, and, you run into that line. You run right into that line. You show up, you put the money in the plate, and then you lift your hands, waiting for him to give you a word from the Lord. To me, when I said word from the Lord, that's the only thing that was different. That's what you're hoping for, is a word from the Lord. But you went ahead, gave your money. You sat up there seeking out something because you're trying to find some sort of direction. He talks about folk being lazy in that clip. People that become lazy Christians and don't want to sit up there and read the word for themselves. That's the whole main thing about it. Everybody wants the quick fix, And the sad part about it is people like Brian know this and manipulate that and get mad money out of it.
Yep.
Get mad money out of it. Now, this clip right here, Truth, this clip right here, you're going to love this one. Because he's going to talk about he's going to talk about the money. He's going to talk about how he,
I'm assuming you use that word love very loosely.
And you got to be able to minister the word of God effectively and prophesy and speaking to the lives of people. You don't merchandise the gift.
Right.
But I do believe in honoring and cherishing the gift, because if you go to the lawyer right now and your son is in prison and he tells you to come up with $7,000, you don't question him.
It's true.
You put your house for a loan. Right. You go to the bank, get a loan. You do whatever you can to believe a lawyer. Why believe a sinner but don't believe the man of God?
Does your gift ever shut off? Is it continue when you wake up and you're in a hotel?
If it shut off, it's because I don't feel like prophesying. Okay. I just don't feel like it. I won't go to sleep. I want to go bowling. If I go bowling, I owe somebody a good whooping. But I want to go bowling, and if I go bowling, I don't feel like prophesying. But if somebody come up to me and it hit me, I prophesy.
So does it have to hit you, or can you randomly just prophesy to anybody, or do you have to look at a certain person and God download something to you? Or?
In a service, when I minister to people, a light shines on a person, and I know that it's an individual that God really wants to talk to.
Gotcha.
But God is concerned about talking to everybody. He told us to pray without ceasing. Prayer is not a monologue, it's a dialogue. If he wants you to talk to him without ceasing, he wants to talk back to you without ceasing.
So the question that I'm asking is, if I would go out into this audience and just, randomly pick someone, would the Lord give you something to say for that person, or would you have to pick the person?
No, you pick out anybody.
Okay.
At any given time.
You said you were blinking earlier with me.
Wow.
Be out of order.
Now she sits up there and adjusts her dress in the clip. That's funny. But if you notice what he said, right, he does a lot of double talking, okay, double speech. He says one thing and basically says, but I'm not that, in the way that he presents it, where he talks about how he sets up his game. So if I were in his service, you had a person in jail and you needed $7,000 bail, you wouldn't question the lawyer. You just go ahead and find the money to get the bail. That's what he's talking about, right? But yet you question God. Now here's the thing. So he's sitting there justifying the fact that for you to get a word, this is what it's going to cost you. Whether it's $7,000, whether it's $5,000, whether it's $10,000, whatever, I'm going to throw out a money amount at you. And if you want this word to come to pass, you're going to have to come up with this dollar amount. No questions asked. That's game.
You know,
I
was just gonna say, you know, one thing that was instilled in me is game recognizes game. First of all, and I believe it was either you or somebody else that mentioned in the chat room. The reason why a lot of this is steadily going on is because people are just not reading the word. I mean, you can't justify, let alone put a price on something God decides to give. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
I mean, what kind of a child of a man of God could one even consider themselves, considering that they actually evaluate themselves by putting a price on something that they're supposed to use for God's people, for themselves as well as God's people? This
but
is
yet
assuming
he's not
he
merchandising the gift. That's what he said. He's not merchandising the gift.
And it's funny because that's what he said, but that's exactly what he's doing.
That's what I said before. He's telling the people on this show, this is who I am, but I'm not this. That's not me. This is who I am, but it's not me. That's what he's saying. Throughout the entire show, she questioned him before, and I thought I got the right part of the clip. I pulled up the, I have to get better at the splitting up the clip stuff. But earlier, he talked about with her about people giving a seed to the man of God, and she said, well, basically, what if you don't have it? He's like, well, the poor, if you ain't got it, you can't put a price on it and everything like that. But the says before, you basically said you got to give a seed to get to the man of God. And that's where it flowed into the conversation. See, for me, that's why I have a problem with people who are hypocritical. And all this double talk really frustrates me. Because you're either going to be a man of your word, but you're not going to have it both. And that's something, and we could talk a little bit about this from the, theological perspective for a second, Sage, is I'm sick of these people saying that they New Testament, but working everything out Old Testament. And what I mean by this, he talks about how a prophet, every time somebody saw the prophet, they came with something. They gave them something. And I'm sitting there like, okay, all right, that seems like it's Old Testament, And we're looking at these people, this man, we're looking at him, and we're trying to see that he is just like a lot of these people who are trying to have a new revelation, with old skins. We're trying to have this new wine in this old bottles. It don't work.
It doesn't work that way.
The bottles are going to break, and people don't understand that the church is breaking at the seams because we're trying to give all this New Testament of Christ. We're trying to give the New Testament of Christ, but we're trying to wrap it around in a lot of legalism and a lot of old stuff of trying to, and it's cracking. It's really cracking, and we need to be aware of this because of the cracking, it allows men like Brian Carn to come in to sit up there and tell you all this stuff about how you need to give me the money, but you ain't got to give me the money. But you need to do this, but that you don't have to do. He's doing all this double talk, because he's basically saying you got these familiar spirits, but I am a familiar spirit. This dude, oh my goodness, he's frustrated. He's frustrated, and I found frustrated because it's like I'm listening to him, and I'm like, he's not making any sense. He's just he's not like rambling, but it's like, how can you, it is really true because I'm trying to wrap my brain around it, and the Bible talks about how a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways.
Yep.
Going through all this stuff with Brian right now is really messing my head up.
I believe it. And it's really quite sad. And I'm not gonna lie to you, not just how mushy or anything like that. But at one time, there's been plenty of times I've honestly really wanted to just sit and just cry, because what many people are failing to realize, especially those who are in this guy's possession that's doing this to these people, you're not messing just with their livelihood. You're messing with their souls. These are people. I would like to believe that these are people who are really desiring to have a closer relationship with Christ. They're really desiring that, really, so they can be able to live better, do better for not only themselves but for their families. And then when they go ahead and believe such things, because times are hard out there. Times are hard, so everybody's looking for some real hope. And yet again, you get those lazy Christians who's looking for the quick fix, and so they listen to guys like him, guys like Eddie Long or whatnot. And this is the end result. Now we have a system that's cracking, and whether folks want to admit it or not, the rest of the world is watching. The rest of the world is literally watching. Is this really the Christ that these church folks is projecting? I mean, it's a tough thing. It's a tough thing.
It is a tough thing. Real quick, 678 area code. I saw you on hold. I just refreshed my screen, so here you go. On the prime time. State your piece. 678.
Would that be me?
Is that you? Revolution, brother.
What's going on? Revolution.
Revolution, brother Kevin, brother Revolution. There's the gentleman.
Good show tonight. That clip you just played, it actually gives you, and greetings to you, Brother Say. This that clip that you just played gives us some insight into the whole game. We're focusing on Brian Carn, but this is really a conspiracy. And what I mean by that
break
is,
it down.
So Brian Carn, let me start it off this way. If you look at his website, which I just did that, he still got an itinerary on there. So in other words, he still got preachers that's still requesting him to come to their church and speak. So Brian Carn is, we get mad at Brian Carn, but people know these things about him. These so-called pastors now supposedly looking out for their flock. And it's real funny that Jay Delano Ellis is mad because Brian Carn apparently messed with his daughter or granddaughter or something to that effect. When the word has been out on Brian Carn for years. But he's still invited.
He didn't hear the word that was coming out about the prophet. Sorry.
So what I'm saying is, long story short, is that there's a pimp game where your pastor brings in these prophets and these evangelists to come to your church to preach, to bleed you dry, because he can't get no money out of you. So what he does is he gets the prophet like Brian Carn to come to your church, preach, get all the money out of you, and then they go in the back room and split it up. That's what happens. So Brian Carn is really kind of like almost like a bounty hunter, really. If you want to look at it that way, he's really
him Marty. But go ahead.
That's what he does. So so he wants to present himself like he an itinerant preacher, like he just go around and speak around. And back to what you said about the analogy with the Old Testament, how he said that when people came to the prophet, they always came with something. Well, they're not coming to him. He's coming to the people. Because he's coming by invitation. He's being invited there, so he can't even get his analogies right with the Bible. But that was the main thing I wanted to point out, was that how it is a pimp game. Brian Carn is specifically brought to your church to get the maximum amount of money out of the congregation, so that they can split. Because the pastor figures getting no tithes Sunday after Sunday, or getting a few pennies, or getting a big chunk of money and splitting it with Brian Carn is better than not getting no money Sunday after Sunday for a few Sundays.
That's right.
So he says, I'm tired of this. Let me get Brian Carn or somebody in here and get a chunk of money. That way I'll be set before Christmas or before my pastor's anniversary. I won't have to go through the winter with.
The struggle is real.
Yeah, Kevin.
So
we talked about that. We talked about that before, and that's the truth, because what we talked about before was how when especially when these pastors in these churches, I think we were talking about it on the CFR one time about revivals,
right?
And about how when people throw these revivals, how they are nothing but bonus money grabs. Because, like you said, they bring in different preachers like this. Now, here's the thing. Evangelists, and I don't know if I made this point earlier, and I think I did, or in the prep for my show, I wanted to make this point. All right. Evangelists became passé. To just be an evangelist, this justice talks about that all the time, how there aren't any evangelists anymore. Well, the reason for it, because it became passé. That doesn't necessarily bring the money in. People got used to it. People got, it's just the brand is an old brand, and people just whatever, But now you have a situation where in the 90s, people when the titles started to come, the evangelists all started up with these different titles, where all of a sudden we started hearing prophets, and how these prophets, actually would turn in prophets. Okay? These PROFHETs would turn in PROFITSs. That's what they would do. They'd turn prophets. These prophets would turn prophets. That's why the title of the show is The Profiting Prophet. Because here's the thing. Here's the thing. The church know this is, and that's where you're right, Kevin. It is a game. It is a money grab, because at the time when they're trying to get these people, they're trying to get everything out of whoever it is. They're trying to get everything out of you. What better way than you bring in this prophet, and this prophet will sit up there and say to you, I need X amount of people. I need 20 people in here to give me $1,000.
I'm gonna tell you, God gonna bless you.
Now, Pastor so-and-so, when he would stand up and say, I need 20 people in here to give me $1,000, that's kind of hard. Yeah. Because he's tapped out his resources. People are used to him. But when you bring in Brian Carn, or when you bring in some other traveling preacher, when you bring them in, they can ask you for, I need someone to give me a house, and I can guarantee you, somebody's sitting up there looking at giving up their keys. I've seen folks give up cars. Okay, so I mean, you can't put it past. I'm just saying. I sat up here. Here's now when I was in college. Okay, when I was in college, this is where I wanted to go too, and then I'm gonna talk about the prophesying thing, because this leads right up into it. There was a guy, and I forgot his name. He would come to our college church about on a yearly basis, and during the whole thing, he would teach us how to prophesy. Right? He would teach us how to prophesy and everything like that. And this dude tried to run a game on me, okay? Now, when I went to church, You know, I was balling on a budget. You know, when I was in college church, I was probably one of the, you know, snazzier dressers of college kids going to church. You know, I like the, you know, the Sergio Buttinis and the, you know, those sorts of shoes and, you know, those sorts of leathers and those big, you know, Italian ties and Italian suit type stuff. I used to wear that stuff a lot in church, you know, in college because, you know, I was church coming into college. Well, this dude comes up to me, you know, towards like, you know, the end of service, you know, it's like the end of service before the benediction, you know, they doing the lighthearted thing. The man looks at my tie, and he said, "Oh, my brother, you have a nice tie." I say, "Thank you." And he said, you're gonna, you're gonna bless the man of God with that tie. And I said, no, that's my tie. Because they try to run. I mean, even with that, it was a part of the game. Dude sit up there asking for my tie, you know, and then he goes on to say, well, you know, people get, you know, give the man of God the shirt off their back, you know, and the Lord bless them and everything like that. And I'm sitting up there like, I'm not giving you my tie. I'm not doing that. You know, I'm not, no. And then someone else in the church was like, I'll give you mine. I'm like, okay, but he didn't ask for yours. He asked for mine. You know, and I'm like, this is ridiculous. You know, I'm like, this is ridiculous. I'm like, how are you going to sit up there and you know, ask for someone else's stuff just out the blue and just expect it? But here's the thing, though. I believe that in some church or churches, he goes and does that to the brothers. And I believe that the brothers are so wrapped up into him being the prophet that they just give up their tie or they give up their shoes or whatever, you know. See, those sorts of games, you know, this man was playing. Because as college kids, we ain't had no money.
Hey, I'm there right
now. Giving wasn't that big of a deal. You know, you ain't getting much. But at the same time, it's like, gotta get something, you know. And that's the thing with these power grabs, you know, Brother Kevin. And that's the thing. They getting this money stuff, and our pastors are bringing these predators into our church to sit up there to make prey on us. That's what they're doing. Now, before the show ends, I got to play this thing. You're going to love it. Brother Kevin, you going to stay on? You going to stick with us? I think he stepped away, but we'll see in a second. But anyway, at the end of the show, before they start showing the service portion of the show, this pastor, but this prophet, Brian Carn, decides that he's going to, you know, Lexi wants him, on command, by the way, to prophesy to her. Now, if it wasn't Lexi, say it's, let's say, we could pick almost anybody. Let's just listen to this, and then we can get to that in a second. I'll get to that when we get to there. Let me just listen.
I'm dangerously intrigued.
Yes, just listen. This is a prophecy that Brian Carn, during the Lexi show, gave to Lexi. Come on.
Oh, there you go.
You want me to prophesy now?
You can start at any time. It's all good. It's just.
As I said, the Spirit of God is on you in this season to get ready to walk into another phase and another place in your life. For you've been in the valley of decision concerning two decisions, but God in this season is going to bring great clarity unto you, where you will not be tossed to and fro. God, do you want me to do this or do you want me to do that? But God's going to give you clear instruction. He's going to give you great direction and great instruction and show you the path in which to go. Also, God in this season is going to give you the ability to love again, the ability to trust, the ability to let go. But God said in this season, I'm getting ready to send people into your life that will not tolerate you, but would appreciate you and celebrate you. For this is your season, said the Spirit of grace, of change. There's an hour I'm getting ready to manifest myself unto you in a way you've known not. And God is getting ready to cause you to even tap into a deeper depth in Him. A place in God in your early childhood coming up. I sense that God is even getting ready to tap into that again. And there is a brokenness and a making. And you said, God, why did I have to go through what I went through? But God said I had to break you. I had to process you. And I had to make you for the things that I'm getting ready to store up for you. For the Spirit of grace says, I'm getting ready to bless you. But in this blessing season, I will not have you give your pearls to swine. Neither would I have you give that is holy unto dogs. And I'm going to give you the grace to articulate. I'm going to give you the wisdom to know who to bless, who not to bless, and God's going to cause you to walk into a new season. I mean, I can keep on prophesying if you want me to.
I haven't stopped you.
Okay. God says, get ready, because you have been in a spiritual desert, not natural, but a spiritual desert. But God says, I'm getting ready to increase your prayer life, and I'm calling it back to that place of dedication and prayer, that place in early morning when you would wake up early and you would seek God on the side of your bed, or you would walk, and in your jogging or in your working out, you would talk to God. The Spirit of God says in this season, I'm calling it back to that. As you walk on the treadmill, talking to God, as you walk and go out early in the morning and speaking to God. God said, I'm calling you back to that. And as you go back to that, God says, I'm going to make things more easy for you. There will not be a struggle. Things will not be hard. I even sense that there's a door getting ready to open for you concerning a clothing line. God is getting ready to open something under you out of New York. Great favor is getting ready to rest upon you. And God is getting ready to cause things to change in your favor in this season. God said, be not afraid of people in this season, because I'm going to use people to bless you. For relationship is the currency of heaven. And I'm going to use people in this season to be a blessing to you. And do not forget that it may be your enemies who are a great blessing to you in this season.
Starting to get nauseous
here.
here.
A tendency of when someone hurts you to shut them off. But God says in this season, don't shut them off. I'm going to use those main people who hurt you and who were your adversary to be your advertisement for the new place that I'm getting ready to usher you in. There's a Spirit of grace.
All right. Now, chat room, y'all going at it, okay?
Yeah. Get ready. I'm gonna give you the same prophecy I gave everybody else on New Year's.
Now, what we heard was a prophecy from Brian Carn to Lexi. Okay?
Oh man.
Now Sage. Now I'm just gonna throw this out to you, hypothetically.
All right.
Could he have been talking to you?
He could have been talking to anybody.
That's what I'm saying. Could he have been talking to you? Fresh word. Could he have been talking to you?
You could hear that same stuff at a New Year's service. I mean, The only thing that was maybe specific was a clothing line, but you can read somebody's bio and kind of figure out that that's what they're thinking. I mean, there was nothing new underneath there.
No, and that's the only thing that was specific in that 3 minutes. The only thing was about the clothing line. Now, she, I didn't take the time to look and research if she has a clothing line now. Frankly, I don't even care. But with all that he said, okay, for the 3 minutes that he said or whatever he was saying, it was the most vague, general of anything that I've heard. And this reminds me of when I was up in college. He would tell the prophet that would come in would do a lot of prophecies like this. They would do a lot of prophecies like this. May say something that was kind of close for some people by the way they reacted, but everything was, in your season, of this season, of that season. I've heard the season stuff and that's something that's a prophet thing too. You know,
I'm wondering what's up with the whole season thing. What was spring?
Go ahead. I can't. You faded out, Sage.
My fault. My headphones are kind of messing up. But this whole season thing, in your season, in due time. I mean, basically everything for those 3 minutes that he said could pass off were really just general words of encouragement. That's all fine and dandy. But turn around and call it a prophecy. You know, prophecy really. You know, when you look at the original meaning of what prophecy or prophet is one who speaks for somebody, or for somebody greater. So this whole thing is just, you know, what we've been saying all throughout this entire show. It's just ridiculous. It is. Yeah. And it's really sad that people really give into such a thing. This guy really much passes off himself as really a soothsayer, folks having to pay in order to get this word. I mean, how can you pay for something that God gives so freely? I mean, if you you know, one person, one mentor I used to say, if you really want to know a prophetic word from God, open up your Bible.
Yeah. Now, when we listen to that, there was one point within the, like, almost a little bit more than halfway through, he said, if you want, I could stop. And, you know, do you want me to stop? And she says, I didn't say anything. To me, what that says is she was looking, and to me, through the entire interview, I think she was a little bit skeptical of Brian.
Oh, you can tell in her voice.
Waiting for something. Yeah, you can. I think throughout the entire show, when she asked, you know, when she called him on the spot to prophesy, because she was leading up to it within the questioning during the show of how she was questioning them about what a prophet does and all this other stuff, and can you just prophesy at any time? And, you know, he basically said, I prophesy when I feel like it. When I don't feel like prophesying, it's over. And, you know, then she goes on and says, you know, ask him a question. If I ask you to prophesy to anybody around, you know, in the audience, I can point to someone and you can prophesy over them. And he's like, yeah. And then later on, he comes like, well, I want you to prophesy to me. That's basically what she says. And he's like, okay, you know, and that's where we picked up the clip. And then she's like, okay, if you're going to prophesy, I want you to say something specific to me. And a lot of what he was saying was, I think he was saying that she's fat because she needs to be on the treadmill and needs to go jogging. That's what I heard. I don't know about you, but I heard him say, while you're talking to the Lord or while you're jogging and while you're on the treadmill and you're talking to the Lord while you're on the jogging, while you're on the he said like 3 or 4 times. I guess he's saying, you know, Lexi, you need to go work out. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm thinking.
You know,
saying to her.
I look at it this way, as far as what a prophet should do. You know, when a prophet came to David. Now, forgive my biblical knowledge. I cannot recall that prophet's name off the top of my head right now. Nathan. Okay. He didn't tell David something he wanted to hear in regards to a prosperous future, in regards to him getting more money. He brought to his attention what he did to bring him back to the Word. Now, to bring him back in good standing with God. And, you know, more than welcome, correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm still learning here, but isn't that what the purpose of a prophet is? You know, we have the Word of God here. Not only that, we also have the Holy Spirit. You know, everybody's looking for something over here, looking for something over there, instead of just looking to Christ. You know, when you're looking towards Christ, when you're letting the Spirit move you, there are certain times that you know, I'll use myself as an example. I found myself doing something wrong. You know, I'm just acting like it's just another day, and then you know, I'm convicted because, like, bro, you know, you should not have done that. You know, and then not to mention, sometimes I'll even open up the Bible and it leads me directly to an example of what it is that I was doing. You know, to me that's also just as good as a prophetic word. But then you have this guy who's saying this is what you should be looking for from a prophet. I'm not that. This is what you should be looking for, and you got to pay something. It's like, come on, man, come on. You are just as human as the rest of us. You know, that whole boasting yourself, seeking attention from everybody. Again, power, money, sex. These things are so blatant and right in people's faces. You know?
Yeah, and the sad part about it is that it's there, and they choose to stay blind to it. And the thing about it is, we have to be vigilant about, you know, exposing men like him. And the thing that, you know, what you were reminding me of is, if we have the Holy Spirit, right?
Mm-hmm.
If we are honestly supposed to be allowing him to leading us and to guiding us into all truth, right?
Right.
I understand the role of a prophet basically should be to, you know, to confirm basically what the Spirit is already doing in our lives, and basically giving a little bit of a foresight into where the Spirit is taking us, okay? Yeah, in some cases, for some people, it may be well. But in other cases, it should be something else. But these guys seem to be focusing on nothing but money and nothing but, you know, things that make us feel good. Or, you know, they sit up there and talk about, you know, this guy, he sits up there and tells us, he sits up there prophesying about, all these things to all these people about how you're blessed, and they just going right at it. They just loving it. You know,
the stuff they want to hear.
It seems like, you know, when the prophets of old came to a particular place, they never really talked about blessing people.
There was a reason why folks didn't like them.
Yeah, folks didn't like them. They didn't talk about blessing folk all the time. Very rare did they do. Like when you brought up the whole issue of Nathan, David didn't really want to see Nathan at that time. You know?
Not to mention, I'm sorry to cut you off, but not to mention, Nathan was somewhat, you know, he was somewhat worried about it. He's about to tell a king, all right?
Yeah.
He's about to tell a king that you in the wrong. You don't just do that willingly. Sometimes there's some of the greatest prophets mentioned in the Bible really hesitated.
Yeah.
Jeremiah.
Because of who they had to talk to.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the thing. It's there's some other. There's so many examples of, you know, when we deal with the prophets and we look at the prophets in Scripture, that when they would sit up there and give out a word, you know, Jeremiah as a prophet.
Not me, the prophet.
He looked, from what Scripture says about him, this was a miserable human being.
He wrote the Book of Lamentations. This guy was going through.
He was going through, you know, but he just kept giving the word, but he really didn't like what he was doing.
I know
he didn't like his job.
It was written that when he tried not to give the word, it was like fire shot up in his bones. He had no choice but to speak.
He had no choice to do it. That's what I mean. It's like, dude was like, I need to stop. I just need to quit. I need to go somewhere. You know, Jonah. You know, Jonah's like, you want me to tell these Negroes to do what? I'm gone.
Well, Jonah was somewhat of a racist, so that's why he got what he got.
Okay, I gotta go. You know, I mean, these men, you know, to be a prophet is not necessarily, you know, the glamour and glitz of, you know, of what this you know, the prophets of our day are portraying.
Right.
John the Baptist was rolling around, going out, prophesying, declaring that the kingdom of God is near, that the kingdom of God is here. Repent, because the kingdom of God is coming. The Son of God is coming. He was out there prophesying in the wilderness, eating honey and locusts. I mean, just locusts, grasshoppers, and honey, and sitting up there in camel skin. Not necessarily the fine linens of what the other Hebrews were wearing. He's sitting up there just whatever animal he done killed, and had clothes for that. That's what he was in.
These folks styling their profile. And John the Baptist live like their grandparents.
These three-piece suits and, and these glamour suits or whatnot. But, the prophet, when he was talking about the offices of the prophet or the functions of prophets and these fivefold, I think we've dealt with that before. But if we honestly understood the fivefold, they call this the fivefold ministry type thing, about edifying the church. Everyone who operates in that, in one of those capacities, to me, it seems like, that's where, it seems like when they're operating, that one is better than the other. So we got to look at the apostles. The apostles are better than the prophets. The prophets are better than everybody else. The evangelists are this. The teachers are this. But truthfully, they all work to the benefit of the benefit of the saints. And he's like, the prophets are not for the world. Well, I don't understand. I'm trying to figure this thing out. I'm like, dude, you say that they're not for the world, but you sit up there, when you're preaching to this, preaching, you sit up there like, I'm preaching on sin. Okay. All right. You're preaching on the sin of the world, or you preaching on the sin of the church? Because if you preach on the sin of the church, you need to preach about the sin of you. That's what I'm saying. So this is our show for tonight. I just looked at the clock and it's 11:57. So that means we got to get it moving and get it going. And Sage, I definitely appreciate you. You got any final thought?
Yeah, final thought is this, once again, it's not a matter of being perfect. We've all fallen short. This is a matter of holding up a standard. If you claim to be whatever, above all else, claiming to be a child of God, do what you can to live like that. If you're having problems, feel free to ask somebody that care about you to help you out in certain areas, because nobody's perfect. But we're going to hold up a standard. Let's hold up a standard, and open up your Bible. Look for yourself to what the Word says. Stop looking for this man. Stop looking for that man, and turn your sights. And this is the most important thing I can tell you tonight. Turn your sights to Christ.
That's right.
Turn your sight to Christ.
And, and that is the truth. There's only one mediator, between God and man. And that man is Jesus. And too many times we try to find others to try to get us to, try to get us to God, try to get faith with God. All we need is Jesus. That's what the scripture says. One mediator, not Brian Carn, And just a final thought, and I'm going to leave this with you. If anybody tells you that you need money to get a word from the Lord, that man is a false prophet. Plain and simple. He's fired.
To the man on that.
Plain and simple.
Or do like Marcellus says, run like hell.
Because you know this. You can find the word of God for yourself, and it is free. You don't need no man to sit up there to buy a word from you, a word for you. So with all that, thank you, Sage. Terry, thank you for calling in. Avery, thank you for calling in. The General, I appreciate it. Everybody in the chat room tonight, this has been the Thursday Think Tank Primetime Edition. And at least at the end of every month, because I got to hustle to make some money, and, this day is a hustling day, so that's why I'm putting it towards the end. But I appreciate all of you. Take care. and have a good night, everybody.
God bless you.
Thank you for listening to this broadcast of the Churchfolk Revolution Radio. You can follow the Churchfolk Revolution by clicking the follow button next to the Blog Talk Radio player. For the latest news and views on pastor accountability, visit pimppreacher.com. Until our next broadcast, may God bless you and revolution.
All right. Oh, pretty long. Yeah. Hey, good show, man. Good show, boss. Good show.
Thank you. Still trying to get this thing canceled. All right, take care, brother.
You too.
Thank you for listening